Katie Miller sucks. I am disgusted by Katie Miller. She disgusts me. She isn't passively supporting her husband, Stephen Little Bitch Miller. She's actively promoting white nationalist talking points, anti-immigration rhetoric, and policies that contradict her stated pro-family values. I am Loren Piretra. Please make sure you're subscribed so we can continue to have more followers than that monster, because Katie Miller is out here doing the Lord's work. And by the Lord, I mean the Heritage Foundation's donor class, who need you barefoot, pregnant, and too exhausted to notice that they're dismantling your rights. Let me be very clear about something. Katie Miller isn't some innocent bystander who happened to fall in love with a pasty fascist. She chose this. She looked at Stephen Little Bitch Miller, a man whose entire political career is fueled by getting rejected by Latinas in Santa Monica in high school. And she said, yes, that's who I want to spend the rest of my life with, amplifying this man's racist grudges. People keep acting like these wives are just standing by their men. No, Katie Miller is a co-conspirator. She's not a passenger. She's driving the damn car, and it's a Civic. You don't accidentally marry Stephen Little Bitch Miller and then oopsie and end up as a mouthpiece for white nationalism and population control. This was a choice.
You have 3 under the age of 5, and you're still doing it all. You worked at the White House. You worked for Elon Musk. Now you have your podcast.
Being a mother is the most important job in the world. I could have the greatest careers working for Elon, working in the White House. I had 3 kids in 4 years, which I joke was during the off season in between President Trump's first and second term. But being a mother has made my career richer, fuller, better. It's made life richer, fuller, better. Having a husband makes your life better. It doesn't inhibit your career. In fact, it ignites gasoline to the fire. And if more women were told and more young girls were told that a husband and children make your life so much better, they would do it younger. It isn't this career gap where you take time off, have maternity leave, and you can't come back and be a CEO. You look at Adina Friedman, the CEO of NASDAQ. She took part-time work when she was a young mother. You look at Susie Wiles, right? Who was a young mother, went part-time, and then she went into becoming chief of staff in the White House.
Babes, you married Stephen Little Bitch Miller, a man so pale, he looks like he was gestated in a basement and fed exclusively on resentment and sunscreen. A man whose entire personality was forged in the fires of getting rejected by hot Latinas at Santa Monica High School and never, ever recovering from it. Fuller, richer, better. Girl, the only thing that got richer is whatever dark money think tank that is bankrolling your crusty ass podcast. You're on Fox and Friends. Literally, that's your job, not at home with your kids. And you're telling other women that motherhood and marriage should be their whole identity. And you're doing this alongside Lindsay Earhart, a woman on her 3rd marriage who's currently dating Sean Hannity, a man whose face looks like it's in a permanent state of yelling at some manager. Ainsley is pulling in a Fox News salary that could fund a small country while telling you, the viewer at home, that your purpose is domestic servitude, unpaid. We are not taking advice from 2 women who are on television for work telling us that work isn't fulfilling. And then Katie Miller, we have Katie Miller proudly going out and saying, make babies more vulnerable to disease, proudly. Supporting policies that put infants at risk. Very RFK Jr. of her. Make it make sense, Katie. Maybe start with, let's protect the babies we have before endangering more newborns. This is your pro-family champion, everyone. She wants you pregnant and unvaccinated. But wait, it gets worse. Let's talk about the Ilhan Omar situation. After Katie got her prom makeup done at Sephora and went on CNN and got absolutely annihilated, she, of course, crawled back to Fox News, where anything goes, as long as it's deeply racist. And let's take a look at this.
All right, here to respond, Steve Miller's wife, the host of the hit Katie Miller podcast. Katie Miller's with us. So she's saying the First Amendment rights are eroding as she's calling your husband a Nazi. Maybe you can help me out with that one.
Every time Ilhan Omar speaks, we are all reminded how the Somali refugee experiment in our country has failed, whether that's scamming Americans out of $1 billion or sending $1.7 billion annually in remittances to Somalia, or the fact that 37% of Somalians in Minnesota can't speak English, Sean. These aren't people who want to assimilate or love our country, and as a reminder, they're free to go home. When Ilhan Omar uses that rhetoric of saying white nationalist and Nazi, what she's trying to do is incite violence and incite someone to murder my husband in all sincerity. That's what people are trying to do. It's no better than someone taking a gun and trying to shoot President Trump in Butler. They're trying to use that language because they're incapable of loving our country and they're incapable of stopping the radical change that's coming, which is secure borders and safe streets. Because under President Trump's watch, we'll never see again, which was Afghan terrorism in our streets of Washington, D.C. And Ilhan Omar is partly to blame for that, using that type of rhetoric.
Ilhan Omar is calling Miller a Nazi because he is. Ilhan called Stephen Little Bitch Miller a Nazi because his career is dedicated to dehumanizing immigrants, separating families, and pushing white supremacist policies. If it walks like a Nazi, if it talks like a Nazi, and if it implements Nazi-adjacent policies, maybe it's a Nazi. Katie went on Hannity and claimed that Omar is using Nazi rhetoric to incite violence and encouraging somebody to murder her husband, and that it's no better than someone taking a gun and trying to shoot President Trump. Little bit of a stretch. Meanwhile, her husband's policies have killed people, many people, traumatized children, destroyed families, and led to deaths in inhumane conditions in internment camps. And then she moved into a casual racist tirade. Every time she speaks, we are reminded how the Somali refugee experiment in our country has failed. Whether that's scamming Americans out of $1 billion, spending $1.7 billion annually in remittances to Somalia, or the fact that 37% of Somalians in Minnesota can't speak English. These aren't people who want to assimilate or love our country. Katie, you're doing racism. That's what's happening here, right there on national television. You're literally proving her point. You're doing it on Fox News. You're doing the great replacement theory, talking about all these talking points, calling an entire refugee community a failed experiment, questioning their love of America, all while defending your Nazi-ass husband, and the irony of you complaining about refugees while sending money back to their families back home. Where does your husband's paycheck come from again? American taxpayers, so he can implement his little white nationalist policy. Here's what Katie really can't stand. Omar is everything Stephen Little Bitch Miller hates. She's an immigrant. She's a woman of color. She's a Muslim. She wears a hijab on the House floor, making history as the first woman to ever do so, after the ban on head coverings was modified following her election. She's successful. She's elected by people. She's powerful, and she has the audacity to call out Katie's husband for exactly what he is. And Katie cannot handle it because Omar represents everything that Stephen Little Bitch Miller has spent his entire life pushing away, pushing for people who are brown or immigrant or successful to just get away, and not giving a single fuck what bitter, rejected white men think about it. And then there's this.
When people say like this is fake, I'm like, actually, well, let's look at, Ilhan Omar, who was voted into Congress by, large group of people from Somalia who are in Minnesota, which is really far from Somalia, or Mamdani, who was voted to be mayor. But but by a majority of people who are not born in America, that's my understanding at least. And then California is a big time situation. So I don't know. We just don't want to turn into a communist hellhole, basically.
This is unacceptable. Two people who have never faced a single day of discrimination or hardship in their life. Katie snickering her little crusty ass face at the name of the first and only woman to wear a hijab on the House floor, a Black Muslim woman who came to this country as a refugee and became a congresswoman. More than both you and your husband and Elon Musk can ever say, no one elected any of you, and no one ever will because you are losers. Katie Miller is married to a man whose entire ideology stems from being rejected by hot Latinas. And Elon Musk, a man-child billionaire with apartheid wealth and the emotional maturity of a kindergartner, snickering together objectively at a woman who's full-on accomplished more than all of them combined. Omar fled civil war in Somalia as a child. She lived in a refugee camp where she learned English and became a U.S. citizen. And then she got elected to Congress and made history. And she uses her platform to call exactly the kind of white nationalist bullshit that Katie and her husband get off to. So I'm sure it feels great to think you're punching down at a refugee with the richest man in the world while your husband implements policies that would have kept her out of this country entirely. Here's what Katie Miller doesn't want you to know. She was always like this. According to the internet, people who knew her in Florida, where she grew up, says that she was always racist and always unliked. Unsurprising, no one ever liked her. This isn't Stephen Little Bitch Miller's influence. She was always a loser and always a bitter biatch. She just found a husband whose hatred matched hers. And now they have kids who probably won't be allowed to have any friends that aren't white and will probably get a lot of shit growing up. Every tyrant needs an enabler. And Katie Miller is Stephen Little Bitch is. And she's not just standing by it. She's actively platforming, defending, and spreading the same xenophobic, anti-woman, white nationalist garbage. She just does it on Fox News with some MAC makeup on that she got done at the mall. And then she goes on Ainsley's show to talk about how marriage makes life fuller, richer, and better. Okay. Conveniently leaving out that her husband's fullness comes from stripping immigrants' families apart, that his richness comes from implementing white nationalist policy, and that his better means a country that looks like the white boys club of Santa Monica High School. Maybe if all the Latina girls who rejected him were deported, then he'd be happy. Because something about what he's doing just isn't matching up. And she says motherhood is her highest calling while she's on television, not with her kids. And she says she's pro-baby while rolling back vaccine protections for babies. She says people calling her husband a Nazi is inciting violence while her husband's policies cause actual violence directly. And she complains about refugees not assimilating while married to a man who literally wants to stop all non-white immigration. She laughs and snickers at Omar with Elon Musk while Omar has achieved more in public service than Katie Miller ever will, while being an accessory to Stephen Little Bitch Miller. Some people will twist themselves into shapes that don't exist just to be seen by a crowd that has already decided that they don't like them. They drop their values, they drop all nuance, self-respect goes straight into the dumpster, all for a fleeting taste of approval that never arrives. It's like the performance of wanting to belong, even when the belonging is impossible. Katie Miller is proof that this isn't just a boys' club. Women can be just as committed to stripping other women's rights away, mocking refugees, and spreading white nationalism and all of its propaganda. If it means that she gets some clout, and that clout includes Fox and Friends, and her bud who's dating Sean Hannity, who also platforms this exact type of garbage on their show, and her own podcast, which we have more subscribers than, so let's keep that up. And if you've had enough of her bullshit, make sure you subscribe.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.